the judgment and the cage. The Grand Assembly Hall floated in the silence of space, a structure older than most civilizations. Built by the architect species 12,000 years ago, it had witnessed the rise and fall of empires, the birth of new worlds, and the quiet march of progress across the galaxy. Today it would witness something different. Today it would judge humanity. Ambassador Elena Vasquez stood in the center of the circular chamber, surrounded by the towering holographic forms of the 7 elder species. Her heart beat steadily, her hands remained calm at her sides, but inside she felt the weight of 300 billion human lives resting on her shoulders. She had prepared for this moment for 3 years. She had rehearsed every argument, anticipated every objection, and studied every precedent in galactic law. Still, looking up at the ancient faces staring down at her, she felt small. The Kryn representative, Counselor Zareth, spoke first. His species resembled crystalline beings of pure energy, their forms shifting between solid and light. When he spoke, his voice resonated through every translator in the chamber. Ambassador Vasquez, humanity has been part of the United Galactic Federation for only 200 years. In that time, your species has colonized 147 star systems, built 600 orbital stations, and increased your population from 8 billion to 300 billion. The Kryn took 4,000 years to achieve similar expansion. How do you explain this? Elena kept her voice steady. Counselor, we explain it with hard work, determination, and the freedom to pursue our potential. We have violated no laws. We have harmed no species. We have only done what any civilization would do when given the opportunity to thrive. The Velthra representative, Counselor Mirasun, leaned forward. Her species looked like 6-armed beings covered in scales that shimmered with bioluminescent patterns. You missed the point, Ambassador. It is not that you have broken laws. It is that you move too quickly. Rapid expansion leads to instability. Rapid military growth leads to conflict. We have seen this pattern before. Young species who grow too fast inevitably become threats to themselves and others. Elena felt anger flash through her, but she pushed it down. With respect, Counselor, humanity is not a threat. Our military exists for defense only. Our expansion has been peaceful. We have contributed technology to the Federation. We have shared our medical advances. We have sent our scientists to collaborate with every species that would accept them. We have been good citizens. The throne representative, a towering insectoid creature named Counselor Cathrix, clicked his mandibles. Good citizens follow guidance. Good citizens understand their place in the natural order. Humanity does not. You push boundaries. You question traditions. You innovate when stability would be wiser. This is the behavior of a species that does not respect the wisdom of those who came before. The debate continued for 2 hours. Elena presented data, offered compromises, and made every logical argument she could construct. She pointed out that humanity's innovation had benefited the entire galaxy. She reminded them that diversity of thought led to stronger communities. She emphasized that punishing success made no sense in a civilization supposedly built on cooperation. None of it mattered. When Counselor Zareth called for the vote, Elena already knew the outcome. 7 species voted. 6 voted in favor of the guided development mandate. Only the Namathi, a younger species themselves, voted against it. The mandate was law. Zareth's voice filled the chamber. Humanity will be limited to no more than 150 star systems. Current colonies beyond this number must be consolidated within 10 years. Human military forces will be capped at current levels with no expansion permitted. All new human technology must be reviewed by Federation oversight committees before implementation. Human trade agreements must receive Federation approval. These measures will remain in place for a minimum of 500 years, at which point humanity's development will be reassessed. 500 years. Elena felt the number hit her like a physical blow. For species that lived for centuries, 500 years was a reasonable time frame. For humans, with their average lifespan of 90 years, it was an eternity. It was 6 generations. It was forever. Elena bowed formally. The human government will receive and consider the mandate. She turned and walked out of the chamber, her back straight, her head high, refusing to show the despair crushing her chest. 48 hours later, Elena stood in Earth's Strategic Command Center, deep beneath the surface of Geneva. The room was filled with holographic displays showing human colonies across the galaxy. Around the massive table sat the representatives of Earth's unified government: President Jackson Chin, Prime Minister Amara Okafor, Chancellor Wei Zhang, and 20 others representing every major nation and off-world settlement. President Chin spoke first, his voice heavy with fatigue. Ambassador Vasquez, you did everything possible. This outcome is not your failure. It is their fear. Elena shook her head. Their fear will cage us for generations, Mr. President. 500 years. We are being punished for being good at what we do. Chancellor Zhang leaned forward. Can we fight this? Challenge it through legal channels? No, Elena said flatly. I have consulted with every legal expert we have. The elder species control the Federation courts. They control the enforcement mechanisms. They control everything. If we refuse to comply, they will impose economic sanctions first. Then military action if necessary. We cannot win that fight. The room fell silent. General Marcus Stone, head of the United Earth Defense Force, finally spoke. Then we comply. Comply? Prime Minister Okafor's voice rose. We accept this cage? We tell our children and grandchildren that humanity's best days are behind us. We comply publicly, said a new voice. Dr. Sarah Okonkwo, Director of Advanced Sciences, stood from her seat. She was 53 years old, brilliant, and had never been afraid to say what others wouldn't. We comply with every letter of their mandate. We consolidate our colonies. We cap our military. We submit our technology for review. We become model citizens of the Federation. And privately? President Chin asked, his eyes sharp. Dr. Okonkwo smiled, and there was steel in that smile. Privately, we build inward instead of outward. The mandate limits how many systems we can occupy. It says nothing about how we develop the systems we have. It limits our military numbers but says nothing about training, tactics, or efficiency. It requires us to share technology but doesn't forbid us from developing it in the first place. Elena felt something ignite in her chest. You are proposing we use the restrictions to become stronger. Exactly, Dr. Okonkwo said. They think they are teaching us our place. They are actually giving us time to become something they cannot imagine. We build better, not bigger. We innovate within their rules. We educate our children to think differently than any species in the galaxy. And when 500 years pass or when circumstances change, humanity will be ready. General Stone nodded slowly. It is risky. If they discover we are preparing. Preparing for what? Dr. Okonkwo interrupted. Preparing to be excellent within the boundaries they set? That is not illegal. That is simply refusing to be broken. The vote was unanimous. Humanity would comply with the guided development mandate. Every rule would be followed precisely. But beneath that compliance, a different plan would unfold. A quiet revolution. A transformation. As the meeting ended, Elena found herself standing beside Dr. Okonkwo, looking at a holographic display of Earth. Do you truly believe we can do this? Elena asked quietly. 500 years is a long time to maintain this kind of determination. Dr. Okonkwo looked at her with eyes that had seen humanity overcome impossible challenges before. Ambassador, do you know what makes humans different from every other species in the galaxy? It is not our intelligence. Several species are smarter. It is not our strength. Many species are stronger. It is our refusal to accept that something cannot be done. The elder species have forgotten how to dream of the impossible. We never will. This mandate will not break us. It will forge us into something the galaxy has never seen. 25 years passed. A generation grew up under the guided development mandate. Children were born who never knew a humanity free from restrictions. They grew up being told their species was too dangerous, too aggressive, too unpredictable. They grew up watching Federation inspectors monitor every aspect of human society. They grew up in a cage. But they also grew up hearing stories. Stories their parents told them about a time when humanity reached for the stars without permission. Stories about innovation and courage. Stories about refusing to be less than they could be simply because others were afraid. Inspector Zareth of the Kryn walked through the orbital manufacturing station above New Terra, humanity's largest remaining colony world. His crystalline form pulsed with light as he reviewed production reports. Everything appeared compliant. Human shipyards were producing civilian vessels only. Human factories were operating within approved parameters. Human research facilities were submitting regular reports to Federation oversight committees. The humans have learned their lesson, Zareth said to his assistant, a younger Kryn named Valeris. They understand their place now. Compliance is nearly perfect. What Zareth did not see was what lay 3 levels below his inspection route. He did not see the training facilities where human soldiers practiced tactics that no elder species had ever conceived. He did not see the research labs where scientists developed technologies using principles the Federation had never explored. He did not see the schools where children learn not just Federation-approved curriculum but also human history, philosophy, and the art of creative problem-solving. Most importantly, he did not see the fire burning in the hearts of an entire generation. A fire that had been lit by being told they were not allowed to shine. Commander Marcus Torres stood in one of those hidden training facilities, watching young recruits run through combat simulations. Marcus was 28 years old. He had been born 3 years after the mandate was imposed. He had never known a free humanity. But his mother had told him stories. Stories about his grandmother, Elena Vasquez, who had stood before the council and fought for humanity's right to exist without chains. "Commander, the new efficiency protocols are ready for testing," his second officer, Lieutenant Yuki Tanaka, reported. "The elder species limit our ship numbers, but these protocols will make each ship worth 3 of theirs." Marcus watched the simulation results. Human forces, outnumbered 3-1, achieved victory through unconventional tactics and perfect coordination. "The mandate says we cannot have more ships," Marcus said quietly. "It says nothing about having better ones. Run the protocol. If it works, distribute it to all training facilities. Do it quietly." Across human space, similar scenes played out. In research facilities on Mars, scientists developed medical technologies that would revolutionize healthcare but submitted only the most basic versions for Federation review, keeping the revolutionary advances secret. In universities on Europa, professors taught courses on creative thinking and adaptive strategy that would have alarmed the elder species if they had understood their implications. In orbital habitats around Saturn, engineers designed ships that complied with every size and weapon restriction while being twice as capable as anything the mandate allowed. Humanity was not breaking the rules. They were rewriting what was possible within those rules. On Earth, in the same strategic command center where the decision had been made 25 years earlier, Dr. Sarah Okonkwo, now 78 years old and still sharp as ever, met with the current generation of leaders. President Michael Torres, Marcus's uncle, reviewed the latest reports. "The Namathi have successfully implemented our training methods," President Torres said. "They report a 40% increase in defensive capabilities. 3 other younger species have requested similar assistance. All quietly, all outside Federation oversight." Dr. Okonkwo smiled. "The elder species thought they were isolating us. Instead, they created a network of species who see humanity as allies rather than threats. When the time comes, we will not be alone." "When the time comes," President Torres repeated. "Do you think it will come in our lifetime?" Dr. Okonkwo looked at the star map displayed on the wall. Human colonies glowed in blue, restricted but resilient. "Mr. President, change comes when it must. We cannot predict when circumstances will shift. We can only ensure that when they do, humanity is ready. That has been our mission for 25 years. It will continue to be our mission for however long necessary." That night, across human worlds, parents put their children to bed with stories. Not fairy tales but true stories. Stories about Ambassador Elena Vasquez, who stood alone before the council. Stories about Dr. Sarah Okonkwo, who turned a cage into a forge. Stories about Commander Marcus Torres and millions like him, who trained every day for a future they might never see but refused to stop believing in. The children listened to these stories and understood. They understood that they were part of something larger than themselves. They understood that being told you cannot achieve something is not the same as it being impossible. They understood that humanity's strength was not in its ships or weapons, but in its refusal to accept defeat. 25 years of restrictions had not broken humanity. Those years had created something the galaxy had never seen before. A species that knew how to be patient. A species that knew how to innovate under pressure. A species that knew, deep in its bones, that the cage would not hold forever. And when it opened, the galaxy would see what humanity had become. The fire burned quietly, waiting for its moment. That moment was coming. The crisis and the revelation. The warning came on a Tuesday morning, Galactic Standard Time. It arrived not as a diplomatic message or a planned announcement, but as a scream of terror from the outer rim colony of Thessar Prime. The transmission lasted 47 seconds before it cut off abruptly. In those 47 seconds, 3 billion beings heard the death cry of an entire civilization. Councillor Zareth stood in the emergency session of the Grand Assembly Hall, his crystalline form flickering with agitation. Around him, the representatives of the 7 elder species looked at holographic displays showing the same horrifying images. Thessar Prime, a thriving world of the Velthra species, was gone. Not conquered. Not occupied. Simply consumed. "The analysis is complete," Counselor Mirasan said, her voice trembling despite her attempt at control. The attacking force came from outside our galaxy. They arrived through a spatial anomaly near the galactic rim. Initial scans suggest technology unlike anything in our databases. They do not communicate. They do not negotiate. They simply consume everything in their path. Counselor Cathrix, the throne representative, displayed tactical data. We have designated them the Void Swarm. Preliminary observations indicate a collective intelligence of unknown origin. They convert matter into more of themselves. Biological life, technology, even raw materials, everything is absorbed and transformed. Thessar Prime had a population of 8 billion. Now it has none. The chamber fell silent. For species that had maintained peace for 12,000 years, the concept of an enemy that could not be reasoned with was almost incomprehensible. We must respond with force, General Croth of the Kryn military said. Assemble the Federation Defense Fleet. Deploy to the Outer Rim. Eliminate this threat before it spreads. The vote was unanimous. Within 6 hours, the largest military force the galaxy had seen in 4,000 years was assembled. 2,000 ships from the 7 elder species, representing the finest military technology civilization could produce. The fleet was commanded by Admiral Thelvaros of the Velthera, a military genius with 3 centuries of experience. The fleet engaged the Void Swarm at the Outer Rim defensive line, a strategic position protecting 17 inhabited systems. The battle lasted 11 hours. It was a massacre. The Void Swarm adapted. Every weapon the Federation fleet employed worked for the first few attacks, then became useless as the swarm learned and adjusted. Energy shields meant nothing. The swarm's weapons passed through them as if they did not exist. Kinetic barriers failed. The swarm simply absorbed the projectiles and used the matter to create more of itself. Electronic warfare was impossible. The swarm had no communications to disrupt, no computer systems to hack. Of the 2,000 Federation ships, 412 survived. Admiral Thelvaros was not among the survivors. In the emergency session that followed, panic replaced the usual diplomatic calm. Counselor Zaretha's voice cracked as he spoke. The swarm has consumed 6 more systems in the past week. Our projections show that at their current rate of expansion, they will reach the core worlds within 4 months. Nothing we have can stop them. Counselor Mirasan looked around the chamber. We need new strategies, new approaches. The traditional methods are failing. We need allies, said a quiet voice. It belonged to Ambassador Tyson of the Namathi, one of the younger species in the Federation. We need every resource available, including those we have previously restricted. I am suggesting we use every tool available to survive, Tyson replied. The humans have been compliant for 25 years. They have proven themselves peaceful. And their methods of warfare, unconventional as they may be, might be exactly what this situation requires. The debate lasted 3 hours. Fear fought against pride. Survival instinct battled with the desire to maintain control. Finally, as another report arrived showing 2 more systems consumed by the swarm, Counselor Zareth called for a vote. All in favor of temporarily suspending the guided development mandate and requesting human military assistance in combating the Void Swarm threat? The vote was 6 in favor, 1 abstention. The abstention came from Counselor Cathrix, who could not bring himself to vote yes, but understood the necessity enough not to vote no. The message was transmitted to Earth within the hour. In the Strategic Command Center beneath Geneva, President Michael Torres read the message 3 times before he believed it. Around him, his council sat in stunned silence. They are asking for our help, General Sarah Kamani said. She was 42 years old, the granddaughter of Dr. Sarah Okonkwo, who had died 5 years earlier. After 25 years of telling us we are too dangerous, too aggressive, too unpredictable, now they want those exact qualities. What do we tell them? Chancellor Rodriguez asked. President Torres looked at the star map on the wall. The Void Swarm's advance was marked in red. It was consuming the galaxy at a terrifying pace. Billions were dying. More would die unless something changed. We tell them yes, President Torres said. But not because they are giving us permission. We tell them yes because billions of lives are at stake. We tell them yes because it is the right thing to do. And we show them what humanity has become. He turned to the military council. General Kamani, activate Protocol Phoenix. Commander Torres, you have operational command. Deploy everything we have been building. Hold nothing back. Commander Marcus Torres, now 43 years old and bearing the rank of Fleet Commander, stood and saluted. Mr. President, humanity is ready. We have been ready for 25 years. Across human space, hidden bases activated. Ships that the Federation did not know existed emerged from concealed positions. Soldiers who had trained their entire lives for a war they were forbidden to fight finally received their orders. Technologies that had been developed in secret were loaded and prepared. The Federation Council had thought humanity possessed 150 compliant colonies and a military capped at pre-mandate levels. They were about to discover how wrong they had been. When the human fleet arrived at the threshold gate, the designated rally point for joint operations, the Federation observers could not believe what they were seeing. 3,000 human vessels materialized from faster-than-light travel. Not the simple civilian ships the inspectors had seen, but combat vessels designed with 25 years of unrestricted innovation. Inspector Zareth, observing from a Federation monitoring station, felt something he had not experienced in his 230 years of life: genuine shock. This is impossible. We monitored their production. We reviewed their facilities. Where did these ships come from? His assistant, Valeris, was reviewing the sensor data. Sir, the ships are within mandate specifications. Each one complies with size restrictions, weapon limitations, and power output caps. But their efficiency ratings are beyond anything in our database. They achieve twice the capability with half the resources. Zareth understood then. Humanity had not broken the rules. They had transcended them. Fleet Commander Marcus Torres stood on the bridge of the flagship Resilience, addressing the combined human and Federation forces. His words were broadcast to every ship in the joint fleet. To all Federation allies, welcome. We understand you are surprised by what you are seeing. For 25 years, you believed humanity was contained, limited, controlled. You were wrong. Not because we broke your laws, but because you underestimated what compliance could achieve when combined with human determination. He paused, looking at the tactical display showing the approaching void swarm. The enemy we face does not care about traditions. It does not respect ancient wisdom. It adapts to conventional tactics and overcomes predictable strategies. To defeat it, we must be unconventional. We must be unpredictable. We must be exactly what you feared humanity would become. The Battle of the Threshold Gate began at dawn, Galactic Standard Time. The Void Swarm arrived with 6,000 vessels, each one a nightmare of organic technology and consuming hunger. The Federation forces, even reinforced by humanity, were outnumbered 2-1. Marcus did not care about the numbers. All human vessels execute pattern chaos, he ordered. The human fleet scattered. There was no formation, no traditional battle line, no predictable strategy. Ships moved independently, each captain making their own decisions based on real-time conditions. To the Federation observers, it looked like madness. To the Void Swarm, designed to predict and counter-organize tactics, it was incomprehensible. Human ships darted in and out of engagement range, firing at unexpected angles. They used gravitational fields of nearby asteroids to slingshot into positions the swarm could not anticipate. They deployed small autonomous drones that moved erratically, drawing swarm fire away from manned vessels. Every tactic violated traditional military doctrine. Every move worked. Lieutenant Yuki Tanaka, commanding a strike wing of 50 ships, found an opening in the swarm's formation. All wings follow my lead. We are going through the center. Her second officer protested. Commander, that is a suicide approach. We will be surrounded. Only if we stay long enough to be surrounded, Yuki replied. Full thrust, fire all weapons, then break left on my mark. Trust the chaos. Her wing drove straight into the heart of the swarm formation. Void vessels swarmed toward them. At the last possible second, Yuki gave the order. Break left now. The human ships veered sharply. The void vessels, unable to change direction as quickly, collided with each other. In the confusion, Yuki's wing destroyed 17 enemy ships and escaped with only minor damage. Marcus watched from the Resilience's bridge as similar scenes played out across the battlefield. Human tactics, born from 25 years of creative problem-solving under restrictions, were working. The Void Swarm, for the first time since entering the galaxy, was being pushed back. But the swarm was learning. Commander, the enemy is adapting to our chaos tactics, his tactical officer reported. They are spreading their forces, reducing concentration, making our hit-and-run attacks less effective. Marcus smiled grimly. Then we adapt faster. All Federation ships, this is Fleet Commander Torres. Form defensive perimeter Delta 7 around the gate. Human ships, execute Protocol Phoenix, Section 3. The human ships began moving in synchronized patterns, creating interference fields that disrupted the swarm's communication signals. The effect was immediate. Void vessels suddenly moved independently, unable to coordinate with their collective intelligence. Now, Marcus ordered. All human vessels concentrated fire on disrupted enemy formations. Federation forces advance while they are disorganized. The combined fleet struck hard. Void vessels, unable to adapt collectively, fell in massive numbers. The battle raged for 16 hours. Ships exploded. Crews died. The void of space filled with debris and fire. But slowly, inexorably, the human-led forces gained the advantage. The turning point came when Commander Amari Chin, Marcus's daughter and captain of the fast attack vessel Unbroken, identified the swarm's coordination nexus, a massive vessel at the center of their formation that was directing the collective intelligence. All ships, this is Unbroken, Amari broadcast. I have a target. I'm going in. Anyone crazy enough to follow me is welcome to join. 60 human ships and, surprisingly, 23 Federation vessels joined her attack run. They drove toward the nexus through a wall of fire. Half the attacking force was destroyed before they reached their target. But those who survived launched every weapon they had. The nexus vessel tried to defend itself. It tried to adapt. But it could not adapt fast enough to the sheer unpredictability of ships whose captains were making decisions independently, creatively, desperately. The nexus exploded. The effect on the void swarm was immediate and devastating. Without central coordination, the remaining vessels became confused, ineffective. The combined fleet destroyed them methodically over the next 4 hours. When the battle ended, Marcus stood on the bridge of the Resilience, looking at the casualty reports. 12,000 human personnel had died. 800 ships were destroyed or severely damaged. The cost was enormous, but the void swarm had been stopped. For the first time since the invasion began, the enemy had been defeated decisively. 3 days later, Marcus stood in the Grand Assembly Hall. The chamber was different now. There was no arrogance, no condescension. The elder species representatives looked at him with something between respect and unease. Counselor Zareth spoke. Fleet Commander Torres, on behalf of the United Galactic Federation, we thank humanity for its service. Your tactics and courage saved countless lives. In recognition of this, the Council has voted to make the suspension of the guided development mandate permanent. Humanity is granted full and unrestricted membership in the Federation. Marcus nodded politely. Thank you, Counselor. We appreciate the gesture. Zareth seemed surprised. You appreciate the gesture? We are offering you freedom. Full equality. Marcus looked around the chamber at the faces of the species who had caged humanity for a quarter-century. Counselor, with respect, you are not offering us freedom. You are acknowledging reality. The mandate never limited humanity's potential. It only limited your ability to see it. We did not become strong because you freed us. We were always strong. You simply stopped pretending otherwise. He paused, letting his words settle. Humanity will accept full Federation membership, but not as a gift. We accept it as equals who have earned our place through our own efforts. And we propose changes to how the Federation operates. The chamber erupted in surprised murmurs. Counselor Cathrick spoke. What changes? The Federation has been ruled by the eldest species for 12,000 years, Marcus said. That model is failing. Young species have been restricted and limited based on age, not capability. The Namathi who voted to help us 25 years ago were ignored. Dozens of other species have been told their ideas do not matter because they lack centuries of experience. This must change. President Torres, observing via holographic link from Earth, spoke. We propose a new Federation Council structure. Species representation based on contribution and merit, not age. Restrictions on development removed. Innovation encouraged, not feared. Diversity of thought valued, not suppressed. Counselor Mirasun leaned forward. And if the elder species refuse these changes? Marcus met her eyes steadily. Then humanity will form a new alliance with the Namathi and others who share our vision. We will work with the Federation where possible, but we will not accept being caged again. Not now. Not ever. The silence stretched. Finally Zareth spoke. The Council will consider your proposal. It will take time. Then we wait, Marcus said. We have learned patience, but we will not wait forever. 6 months later, the Federation Council announced sweeping reforms. The Council expanded to include 15 species, including humanity and the Namathi. Representation became merit-based. The guided development mandate was formally abolished, not just for humanity but for all species. On Earth, in the Strategic Command Center, 3 generations gathered to celebrate. President Michael Torres, now 73 years old. Fleet Commander Marcus Torres, who had led humanity to victory. And young Lieutenant Elena Torres, Marcus's granddaughter, named after the ambassador who had started it all. Your great-great-grandmother would be proud, Michael said to Elena. She stood before the council and fought for humanity when we were powerless. Now we stand as equals. Elena looked at the star map on the wall. Human colonies glowed across the galaxy, no longer restricted, no longer limited. We did not win because we were stronger, she said quietly. We won because we refused to believe the cage was permanent. Marcus nodded. The elder species thought they were teaching us our place. Instead, they taught us something far more valuable. They taught us that restrictions cannot limit potential. They can only hide it for a while. And when it emerges stronger than before. Across human worlds, the story of the 25 years under the mandate became legend. It was taught to children not as a tale of oppression, but as a story of resilience. The story of a species that was told it could not grow, and responded by growing inward instead of outward. A species that was told it was too dangerous, and proved that the real danger was underestimating what determination could achieve. The Galactic Council had tried to stop humanity. They had built a cage of laws and restrictions, believing it would contain human ambition. They were wrong. The cage did not contain humanity. It forged them. It transformed them into something stronger, smarter, more resilient than they had been before. And when the moment came, when the galaxy needed exactly what humanity had become, they were ready. The elder species learned a lesson that would reshape galactic civilization for millennia to come. You cannot stop a species that refuses to be stopped. You can only decide whether they will be your partners or your replacements. Humanity chose partnership. But they chose it as equals. And the galaxy would never be the same.